Hey, what's going on, guys? Hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone is enjoying their day. I thank those for tuning in to the channel. Please, if you're first time, please go ahead and hit the like button. Please subscribe if you would like to. And as always, for those who've been tuning in and watching my videos, continue to share. Please pass this information to someone who needs to hear it. For today's topic, we'll hopefully give you some insight and some outlook on certain topics and certain things that I'm going to discuss today. So I'm going to jump right into it. Not going to try not to be before you guys long, but I got some stuff I want to kind of share. This video I watched maybe a week or two ago. Pastor Mark Driscoll talks about the Jezebel spirit, and I already done videos on this, so I'm not going to try to rehash some stuff I already said, but I just want to kind of share an outlook. You can consider this a men's talk. Hopefully women can get something out of this too, because it's one of those videos where I'm going to kind of point this towards the men. Disclaimer, I'm not going to try to bash women in this video. I'm going to try to kind of highlight certain points. But, hopefully if a woman watches this, they don't take offense. I'm not trying to be intentional in offending women, but there's some things that I would like to point out. So with this video, Pastor Mark Driscoll, he's in the news for stuff he said about in the men's conference. There was some striptease type of thing going on in the men's conference, and of course he exposed it or tried to expose it, and it caused him to go viral. But he did a video that really kind of opened my eyes to the Jezebel spirit and talking about Ahab and talking about how Ahab was more of a passive leader and allow his wife Jezebel to rule in his stead, and it was a lot of evil things that she was doing. And so with that transition into a spiritual aspect, now marriages, men are being abused, men are being disrespected, men are being emasculated by their wives, and it's causing something to be point out. And he was just pointing out these different aspects. And one of the one-liners he said was, if a man or a husband and you're tolerating these behaviors, then you're Ahab. You have an Ahab spirit. And if you tolerate disrespect, you tolerate just being passive, then you're allowing the woman to take control. It's going to cause some destructive habits, destructive behaviors towards the marriage and the children. When I'm talking about this, I'm not talking about per se the woman's evil, but the actions. And it can stem from so many different things. It can stem from how the man leads. It stems from personality. It stems from the way the woman was brought up, the way the man was brought up, however it looks. But it's just interesting that if you're a man, he said, if you tolerate evil behaviors, if you tolerate a Jezebel, the way she treats you, the way she talks to you, then you're going to allow your home to be taken advantage of. One of the key points that I took out of that as well is that how the kids are affected too. Because I've seen it in my own personal life where if I demonstrated, and I have demonstrated some Ahab spirit tendencies, and I had to learn how to lead and learn how to break out of that type of stuff, and because it affects the generations, it affects the children. And so when it comes to the men, understanding what type of man you are, understanding why you're marrying the women that you're marrying, why are you into this marriage? Because I stand heavily on godly marriage. And as you check out my other channels and my other videos, I talk about it from time to time. I'm not trying to put in a plug in, but I have a channel that talks about godly marriage and some of the stuff that the challenges and some of the things that the principles that we need to understand. So when a man marries a woman, understand the purpose, understanding personality, understanding the mindset, asking the questions. Okay, what type of woman are you? What type of man are you? When you get into these relationships with, for example, men are marrying younger women. They want to be with younger women because of the youthfulness. They want to be with women that they look good on. If you start going to a carnalistic perspective of marriage, you're going to have potential issues. I'm not saying that everything's 100%, but you're going to have potential issues because you're basing your marriage off something that's not a foundational principle. You're not basing it off the things that the Lord is saying. You're basing it off what you want. You're basing it off she looks good or she's going to do this for me. and their relationships can become transactional. And then next thing you know, there's issues in the marriage. There's cheating, infidelity, unfaithfulness. There's disrespect. There's violence. All these different things. When we think about the Jezebel spirit is a woman. Well, she was a woman in the Bible that exemplified a masculine, dominant perspective. She had evil intentions, and she was worshiping gods and worshiping deities that went against the Lord Jesus, went against Jehovah, went against what his standards were in regards to not participating in sexual immorality and participating in false worship of other gods, right? She brought that into a lineage and a marriage with a man that allowed it, that was passive, that he just said, I'm going to allow things to go the way they're going to go. He didn't try to have a stance. So leading that into today, I saw comments of men saying, you know what, I'm going to stay in this marriage. Or I seen there was testimonies of different individuals in those comment section that said that they saw men in their elder years. The women was disrespectful. The women was just talking to me type of way. And it sparked something in me because I too dealt with something similar. And I had to learn, I had to really sit down and study, and I had to really pray, I had to really seek to understand the marriage, and understand why did these things take place. As a man, if you feel like you got to stay in something and stay in a marriage and relationship, but particularly a marriage where you worried about the income, you're worrying about the monetary. And I understand, and there's men that are on YouTube right now, they're talking about these things. Don't ever get married. Don't ever deal with a woman in a marital way, because the country is set up this mindset, this laws and foundation of the country that we're living in is determined and destined to, if a man divorces a woman, they're automatically side with the woman. And I talked about this in my other videos, so I'm not gonna try to rehash the court system, because we all know what that entails. So now these men are saying, nope, don't ever marry. Young men, don't ever even think about, don't even consider marrying a woman, let alone even dating a woman, courting a woman. It's to just get what you need, sex, convenience, and done. And I said the problem with that is because if I go and deal with a woman in that particular way, and she decides to one day say, I don't want to do that no more, or I don't want to be a part of that no more, right? Or something comes out of that relationship. You know, you get a woman pregnant, right? And she doesn't want to have an abortion, right? She's going to have a child. You're tied up. But there's situations, of course, we can say that I can get away with it. I don't have to. I can do this with a woman. I can sleep with her, have sex with her, but nothing can come out of it. But when we understand that, we're connecting on a spiritual and a soulful level. It may not get none out of it physically, even though sometimes physical things come out of it, but you're making connections that you don't need to make. So when it comes to that, these men are saying, nope, don't do it, right? Because if you do it at your own risk, you're going to lose everything. And I have something to say about that, because they have a point. They have a point, because I have my moments where I'm frustrated because I got into a marriage that I shouldn't have got in. And I got into something to where it cost me. And I have to do other means and other things to make up for some of the stuff that I've done, because I got into a situation I should never got into, and I dealt with a court system that was strictly for her, strictly for the woman. And they abided by anything the woman wanted, anything that she ever wanted, they did it. And it cost me a lot. And sometimes I get better. I have my moments where, hey, I made a mistake. I did this, I did that, and it cost me. And when sometimes I think about it too, it's like, I know we talk about celebrities, right? I'm trying not to really throw out names. You all know who they are. You already know celebrities. They're in certain relationships with certain people, certain women, and they're destroying them, and they're dragging them through the public media, social media, and they're made a spectacle and a fool of. I already talked about it on my other channels. You already know who know I'm talking about. But these men are staying in these marriages because they're making all this money, and if they know they go to court, they're going to snatch it. They're going to take everything they have. The woman's going to come out on top because either they have children or they just entitled to the money because of the timeline of marriage. So with that being said, right, it causes bitterness. causes resentment. And when this is done to a man, particularly, that's why you have the marriage train being you have the people not want to even deal with marriage. The marriage train is stop going forward. It's coming to a screeching halt. One of the things I want to say though to the men, if those who choose to stay in this type of thing, one of the things that made me leave the marriage that I was in before is because I chose to say I had to deal with my sanity, I had to deal with my peace, and I had to deal with not being in a situation where I was tied to someone for years, more time than I ought to would have gave. So I decided to take that L. I had to take that L. I had to get out of it. And yes, it cost me a lot. Yes, it caused me to have to make certain decisions. Yes, it affects what I have going on today. And I have to continually make moves and do things to do what I need to do to sustain the life that I need to sustain. But that's the cost of me doing what I need to do to get out of it. Because even though I'm dealing with certain things, my peace, my health, my sanity is now better. It's way better than what it was before. And when I see men saying stuff like that, when I see comment sections where they've been married 20, 30 years and they're miserable and their health is declining and then the thing is, when men are in situations because of business or it's a transactional or it's because I don't want my finances to be taken away, then what happens, right? Something happens. There's agreements, there's covenants made to where I know there's some men that probably go out and they have side affairs with different women. They're married, but they're going out having these side affairs. And if they're doing it on a secret basis or they're doing it in agreement with the current spouse. As long as the current spouse get what she wants, as long as the current spouse at that time getting the monetary and the transactions and the financial piece, they may be cool with the man going out sleeping around. Or the man could be doing it on the side and the current spouse don't know it. Or the current spouse does know and she's also doing it and they're just doing their separate thing. There's so many different ways with it. But I had to make the decision to say, no, I don't want to live that way. My morals, my principles, I can't keep going out and sleeping around with different women. I can't keep going out and trying to go and deal with this type of person and deal with that type of person. I needed to end what I was in. So back to the point of the men saying don't marry. I agree. I'm not going to sit up here and say and bash these men for saying don't marry. If you're looking at it from a perspective of the world and you're not doing the work necessary, you're not making decisions, you're not being smart, you're going off the carnal, you're going off of what she looks good and what she can do for me, and I make that decision, then they're correct. They're right. Don't marry. Don't ever touch a woman, marry a woman, because if you deal with the wrong one, you're going to be in a situation that I was in. Be in a situation that probably a lot of men are going through right now. And also you got to understand too, that's why you got to analyze character. You got to analyze character. You got to analyze integrity with these women, because we all see stuff on the news. I was watching something the other day where this woman was setting up her husband for a life insurance policy and they had him killed. This stuff is common than what you think, right? This stuff is common. You have to and this is why you have to do the work. You have to take time to analyze the perspectives of women. Some men's going to say, no, I don't want to do all that. Why? Don't marry at all. Don't marry at all. Don't marry at all. Don't ever deal with a woman at all, because if you do, then this is the consequence. So back to what Pastor Mark Driscoll was saying. He was saying that a man shouldn't tolerate evil, or better yet, tolerate behaviors that are evil. More so than trying to define that, because people think, well, the woman's evil. No, the behaviors, the mindset, the toxicity. That's evil. That's going against what God's saying. So Ahab and Jezebel. Ahab was in a situation where he wanted to buy a vineyard. And this is biblical. Can't think of the scripture right now, per se. It might be in 2 Kings or 1 King. I can't remember. But he wanted to buy a vineyard. And Naboth, this guy named, he said, nope, I don't want to sell you the vineyard. Instead of him taking charge and working something out and being a king of Israel at the time, he cried to his wife. He was passive. And he allowed Jezebel to make a decision on his behalf. He allowed Jezebel to rule and make a decision. Just like Eve. Allow Eve to make a decision to go against something that God told her and Adam not to do. And when he did that, that caused sin. That caused the death of Naboth. That caused issues. It caused him to be passive and tolerate evil. And you tolerate evil, God's going to be displeased, and the earth is going to turn and groan because of the blood being spilled. I'm talking about in that context. But I'm talking about in today's world, if I allow, as a husband, to allow my wife to just do anything, make decisions, not consult, not talk, we're not on the same page. If I allow behaviors to be tolerated in the home, then it's going to cause issues. It's going to cause behaviors. It's going to cause habits to be formed to lead to evil. So as a man, I was thinking about it too. I said, okay, I got a woman that she doesn't want to hear nothing. She don't want to be. She's rebellious. We argue, we fight. At one point in time, I remember just sitting there and just saying, I don't want to argue. I want my peace. I come home, work all day. I'm tired, and I got to come home argue with a woman. I got to argue with a woman. So sometimes you don't want to hear that. We don't want to, as men, sometimes we don't want to do all that arguing. We tired, work hard. We just want peace. So a lot of times we give in to what the woman's doing. We give in to that behavior because it's peaceful. I don't want to argue. It takes a lot out of a man to argue with a woman all the time, every day. So when a man is passive, sometimes he just don't want to deal with it because it's easier, it's peaceful. Versus, when you start putting up a fight, you start pushing back, you start resisting, you start fighting with the woman, it just gets out of control. When we talk about communication, sometimes, you say, well, we don't need to do all that. Why are we going back and forth and arguing? Two mature people sit down and have a conversation and say, hey, this is the issue. Let's work through the issue. Conflict resolution, not being able to go back and forth. But when you think about Jezebels, one of the things I say with Pastor Mark Driscoll, he said that when a Jezebel loses authority, when she doesn't have control over that person, over that husband, over that king, as it was in that time, then they start stuff, they pick fights, they lose control, they get out of hand. So understanding that, it really opened my eyes to understand my personal testimony. And understand that when I picked up a fight, it just caused it more stirred up. But when I said, no, I'm good, I don't want to deal with that, I'm tired, I'm become passive, and it just allowed things to go the way they want to go. So tolerance, tolerating things that are just that's not godly, and you put up a fight, and it causes conflict or friction between the children and the wife. Sometimes it's needed. It's needed because you are supposed to be the head of the house. One of the things that I saw that really touched me too was when it was a comment from a teenager. It was two comments. It was one from a young woman, teenage lady, she's 16, 17 years old, and then it was a comment from a teenage boy, 16, same age. Teenage young man said that he resented his father because he allowed his mom to be a tyrant, to rule, to be a harsh iron fist parent or a spouse to the father, and the father just sat there. He was passive. And he allowed it to be. Okay, and he resented himself because now he don't want to marry because he saw what his parents went through. He don't want to deal with marriage because of what he saw his mom and dad, and his dad just sat there and took it. And why did the dad take it? Because one, he probably just zoned out. Two, he probably don't want to lose his inheritance, lose his money that he worked hard for. Three, maybe he just didn't want to deal with it. We don't know the reason. And the second example was a young lady, and she said she was staying with a couple where she saw similar things. The husband would get abused. He would be talked down to, disrespected, cussed out, whatever the case may be. And she said that she didn't feel it was right. And she was a young child. She was young. I think it was 15, 16 at the time. She saw things, and she said that wasn't how it's supposed to be. But she wasn't there. She left. But that what she saw, that perspective, stuck with her to where the point where now she's older and says, hey, this is what I saw. I've seen people in my own personal life where I've seen people married to somebody and they drink, they do drugs, they go sleep, they be gone days at a time, they're gone. They're not coming home because they don't want to deal with that. Passiveness, you're being passive. And being that way, it's no fruit. And surprisingly, when I was also reading the comments, I saw this was happening in the church a lot too. This happens in the church where there are relationships where men are just being emasculated and reduced to nothing. And the thing we don't understand, the thing I've learned, and I've seen it too in my own personal life, where if you don't check this stuff, the kids are going to pick up on it. The kids are going to see that if mama can do daddy wrong, they can talk to daddy in type of way, or talk to the father in type of way, then I'm going to do the same. I'm going to do the same, not only to do it to my father, but also I'm going to do it to the men that's in my life. When I ever date or marry, I'm going to do the same thing because that's what I saw as a child. That was a pattern that I saw. I didn't see, daddy, he just let it go, be passive, because to him, and see, as a kid, you're not going to understand. You're not going to understand why things are the way they are until you become an adult. And then you see maybe daddy didn't say nothing because he was trying to prevent the peace. Maybe daddy didn't say nothing because he was just trying not to get into it with the mom. Maybe he was tired. We don't know. But how does that look when a man says, I'm not going, how does that look when a man's supposed to take a step? There's only, and that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand, there's only so much the man can do, because I said this before, when I had times where I would try to put my foot down and I would say, hey, we're not doing this. When you're dealing with a spiritual Jezebel, when you're dealing with a Jezebel spirit, you're dealing with someone, you're going to have to take it till up 2-3 notches. You're going to have to take it at a step, right? As a man, you should just say what you need to say, right? Say this, easy day. A man say something and you don't have to get into an argument with the woman or nothing. He just say, this is how it's going to go. If the woman don't buy it, then that's when it leads to the next step. That's when you start moving on and there's separation, and then you move on to divorce. But these are the things that we're dealing with. Shouldn't have to get to a point where you're physically involved. You're domestic violence and hitting and all this stuff because you're trying to get a point across. There were times where I had to really take it up a notch. Not saying, that I had to go the routes I had to go, but trying to get a point across was difficult. Okay? Sometimes we just don't want to deal with it. That's why we just shut down and we shut out. We shut down, we go do our thing, we go and not come home, we go to drink, and we go to destructive behaviors because we're not able to communicate. We're not able to have the conversation to fix the issues in the home. So, and the thing too is not just marriage. People think that marriage is just giving you that monetary, that financial aspect, but in marriage, it's relationships too. You can get in a dating relationship with a woman and it can be like that. You can not have good communication. You're not going to have, know how to work through things, and it can be the same. But going back to my original point, what the original point I made is understanding about godly marriage. Understanding godly marriage is going through the process. First, having your relationship with God intact. First, walking in purpose. Second, walking in purpose. As a woman and as a man, walking in purpose. As a man, you should be walking in purpose because purpose includes not just getting the bag or going to make them extra cash. Purpose is walking with what the Lord wants you to do. Purpose is following the Lord in His steps and walking the steps that He wants you to walk. It was a YouTube influencer that I saw earlier today. Not today, but yesterday, and she was talking about not having a desire. You want to be married, but you're not focused on marriage. You're focused on God's will and His purpose. What God does is then He sees someone, you don't walk in His purpose, and you have the desire for marriage, and then what He does is bring the woman into your life. The woman's presented to the man, and then the man and the woman walk together in unison and walking together in unity to fulfill God's purpose as a unit. But before that point, that those 2 points cross, The man is walking with God and having his relationship with God intact, and he's following the purpose of God. And the woman is also following God and her purpose intact. Two purposeful people come together. And when they two come together, then you work out the kinks, you work out all the different things in regards to personality, you work out purpose, you work out whatever you need to work out. You maintain celibacy. You're not engaging in sexual immorality. You're not having sex and doing all the stuff that the world does. Okay? You're honoring God in the process of coming together. You're honoring God in the mindset, in the soul. You honor him in the relationship. You honor him in the respect. Bible, you're basing your marriage off biblical principles. You're basing your marriage off of what God says it should be. You're not basing it off the world. You're not basing it off what the YouTube says, the commentators. You're not basing it off your past experiences. You're not basing it off what your parents done. You're basing it off what God's standards are. And then you come together and you walk out y'all purpose and y'all lives together. There's honor, there's respect, there's love, there's peace, there's joy. You're coming home and then see people say, oh, you're talking about perfect world, perfect marriage. Godly marriages are not perfect. But godly marriages can be fulfilling and can be honorable and can be done the correct way. One of the things I took a stance on as I got remarried, one of the things I said was that I want a marriage where I don't have to deal with all that arguing and all that fighting, all that crazy stuff. When we have disagreements, we can sit down and have these conversations. We can discuss and have conflict resolution. I don't need to be disrespected. I don't need to be called names. I don't need to be hit. I don't need to be hitting. I don't need to be sitting in a corner or having this despise in my heart towards the spouse. But I can be living a fruitful life, and I can be able to walk with my spouse and deal with hard time issues, deal with tough conversations without having to resort to that. And I believe, and I stand on it because I'm living it today. I'm in this wholesome that I don't have to do all this stuff no more. It's done God's way. We do things on our separate times for ministry, and we come together and do ministry. It can be done. And that's the part I want to say. I mean, yes, you hear the guy saying don't do it. I agree. Don't do it if you're going to do it the world's way. If you're going to pick many women off the street, you're going to go deal with some woman based off how she look and what she does sexually or what she does for you in a transactional sense, then yes, don't do it. Don't marry a woman that's based off, oh, she can do this in the bedroom. She can do that. She can cook me some steak and eggs. Don't do it for just that. If you're doing it God's way, then I should say you should do it. Because it's a whole different type of marriage. It's put you in a position to where you have to walk right. You have to be in right standing. You have to be able to walk with God and be in a relationship with him, because he is the one that's going to lead you to do what's right. He or she's going to lead you to do what's right. If a woman's upset, she walking with God, she's not going to do all this stuff the world does. She's not going to be cussing you out. She's not going to be trying to set you up to be killed. She's not going to be going out here sleeping with other men. One guy said that women will always, when she feel like it, she can up and leave you. You probably can if it's the worldly woman. And I'm not saying if you're doing wrong, you're not walking the way you're supposed to be walking, and you're not living a certain type of way. I'm not saying it's impossible. But I feel like with godly marriages, there's so much more foundations. There's so much more at stake in regards to God and the purpose. And there's certain things you have to do and live by in order to be in a godly marriage. There's so much more to it. There's so much more that's at stake spiritually, and to how to go back to the original intent of marriage, to where godly offspring was created to do God's purpose. I'm not saying God can use anybody, okay? But godly offspring, godly marriage leads to godly offspring and godly generations. Things were done throughout the generations where God used people because they were walking with the Lord. They're examples. So the goal is to do the work now, do the healing, work on yourself, work on your relationship with the Lord, work on purpose. If you desire marriage and you truly desire marriage, then you trust the Lord to present that spouse to you, or you be presented to the spouse. And then you walk together as you grow and you become one flesh. The process is not just in the beginning. The process is a walk throughout life. Yes, there's natural things, there's spiritual things, there are things that you have to deal with. Nothing's perfect. But it's a whole lot better than sitting back on social media and just saying, I'm not going to ever marry again. You deal with a Jezebel and you have Jezebelic traits, man or woman. I know I haven't talked about the man much, but Jezebel spirit can be a man too. It can be a man that's controlling. It can be a man that just beats down women. It's both sides. That's why it's important for both parties to be working with the Lord. That's why it's both important for both parties to detox from Jezebel, to detox from that controlling spirit, that manipulation spirit. Get detox from being disrespected and talk. It's a whole pride aspect to it. It's a whole pride aspect to it. At one point in time, I thought that I was going to be one of these men too. I was going to be one of these men that no ever marry again. Don't ever be with a woman inside of marriage. Only have sex with her and that's it. But I had a revelation and I had an experience. The Lord, I got to a place in my life where I said, Lord, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to walk with you, and I'm not going to focus on a woman. This is my testimony, I think, a while back on other channels, but it might be in the up and coming videos and books that I'm going to try to put out. But I wasn't looking for a woman, and the Lord brought my wife into my life today. She brought my life then. I'm sorry, and she changed my life. Changed my life, and now I can say there's two sides to this. There's a side where if you do it wrong, you're gonna end up the way I was before, or you can do it right now with God, and it can be the best experience. But the thing with a lot of men today, they don't want to do the work. They'll just say, I don't want to marry. Deal with a woman. You can deal with a woman without the marriage. You can still get your relationships, and you can still have what you want, but you don't want to do what's right. You don't want to do the work, but you can continue to be speaking this stuff. You can continue to keep saying that I'll never be with a woman again in that way, except for when it's sexual and when I need to release, or I need companionship, or I need whatever I need. And yeah, it's true that if you get with the wrong woman, you'll be like that. But there's also another way to it. And it requires submission. It requires honor. It requires respect. It requires discipline. It's going to require you to do some work. It's going to require you to be studious and be in your word. It's going to require you to think and move a certain way. God's not going to give you his jewels. He's not going to give you the best of the best unless you're right too. Right? Does that mean perfect? Nope, that's not what I'm saying. That means you're walking with the Lord. You have a relationship, a true relationship. Not over here deceiving people, telling them that everyone's a child of God. And it's not true. Everybody has their own opinion. I know people believe in different things, but the biblical principle says that that Satan has kids, God has kids. God has child of God and it's a child of the devil. You got to have your relationship with God all the way through and through. That's what I'm trying to say. Have your relationship with God through and through, so that when you decide to marry and do it the correct way, you'll be in position. You're in position to lead. You're in position to manage a home. You're in position to walk with purpose. You're in position to understand who you are as a man of God. God will bring the woman into your life, and she will hopefully done the work to understand her position, to understand that she can't be cussing you out, that she's going to honor you, that she's going to respect you, she's going to submit to you. Godly submission, not talking about, do what I say do, and if you don't do it, then we're getting into it. I'm talking about godly submission. A woman will understand that. She'll understand the principles that's behind it. She won't sit here and cuss you out and call you names. She won't sit here and go out here and give her body to other men. Proverbs, all the book of Proverbs, verse 2, 3, 4 chapters talk about women going down to the grave. Women's going out sleeping with a man when her husband's gone on a field, on a business trip. Godly women won't do that. They honor and respect you. treat you with the way you need to be treated. But you have to do your part as a man and respect a woman, love her the way Christ loved the church. Provide for her, yes, but also be a leader and understand who she is and cultivate her and wash her with the word of God, as it says. These things got to be done on both ends. Woman can't be a Jezebel and trying to control the house and be nasty and rude. Man can't be an Ahab either. He can't be sitting passive and letting things go. He has to be able to stand up and communicate what is needed to be communicated. And she needs to be able to receive, hear, and understand. And also when she needs to speak her mind, then he needs to be able to do the same thing. That's how a godly marriage is supposed to start out. It's supposed to be like that. But if you can't do that, you out here in the streets and you trying to deal with a woman based off your looks and what she can do for you, you're going to have these issues. And those purpose is not getting the bag or me hustling or me making the money. Purpose is impact. Purpose is God's impact on your life and your life to others. God measures that impact. God measures that success in regards to your purpose. You don't measure that purpose in dollars and assets and other things. You measure it through God's lens, God's perspective. So when you do that and understand that, then you can come together with a woman that's on the same type of time, and y'all can go out and do God's purpose. I was talking to a couple today with a husband or the potential husband of that couple. And I told him I support his marriage. I want to be there. I want to see his union with his wife whenever that time comes, because I know as an individual, he's going out and he's serving his community. He's doing God's work. He's impacting lives. And I see her as well. She's going out and impacting lives. She's touching people's lives. They have a gift. And together, when they come together, as I was telling him, they come together, they're going to make a global impact. They're going to make a regional impact. Lives are going to be touched as a unit just as much as they touch each other individually. So it's importance of godly marriage. That's why I stress it so much. That's why it has to be in the forefront of everyone's mind. When we're talking about, we can say negative things. We can say, don't ever marry, don't ever do this, don't do that. We can hammer that to the nail and to the coffin. But what about talking about doing the right things and working on godly marriage? What about promoting things that God wants? What about promoting his way of doing things? What about you getting before him and becoming cleansed and repentance and going before him and being right before him? You know, then when I want that woman, I want that desire to be married and start what I need to start, then I'll be in position. That's what you need to do. That's why I should go. Shouldn't be no other way. So that's all I got. I wanted to share that and get off my chest. Hopefully it blesses you guys. Hopefully it'll cause some thought. Hopefully it'll help you understand the difference between the world in regards to their response to relationships and marriage versus godly way. The whole thing what Pastor Mark Driscoll was saying is do not tolerate a Jezebel. Do not tolerate evil behavior. Do not tolerate these things that breaks up homes, because Satan's agenda is to steal, kill, and destroy. If he can get a woman to talk crazy to a man and cause him to be thrown off and cause the home to be divided, division, then it's going to split the home. And it's going to cause divorce. It's going to cause kids to be hurt. It's going to cause issues within the communities, issues within the home. It's going to be splits. It's going to be bitterness, resentment. It's going to be unforgiveness. It's going to be all these different things because we chose incorrectly. Two, but most importantly, when you're trying to work through it and you're trying to fix that you had too much division. Satan his goal is to divide. And it causes a man to be bitter because he lost what he lost in court. He lost half his assets. Now he's got to struggle. And then he still got to try to maintain his front for his kids, because his kids, you don't want to see your kids looking bitter and evil. You don't want your kids be, you're trying to see your kids. Then you got to deal with the whole thing. And then your perspective is going to change. And then you're going to be on here on YouTube talking about don't ever marry ever again. I said this on plenty of videos. You ain't going to want to marry again. You don't tell the folks don't get married. And if you get married, you're going to lose. You're going to be like this and that. And understanding that is true. You will. You will, because the woman, her mindset isn't about the things on Lord. It's about on herself and about what she wants. And if she don't get it the way she don't get it, or you don't respond the way she don't respond, or however it goes in the marriage, to the courthouse, judge gonna bang the gavel and you're gonna lose everything. So hopefully this bless you guys. I know it's a little unorthodox, but I just wanted to kind of share these thoughts and things that's been on my heart. And if you haven't seen the video, Pastor Mark Driscoll talks about the Jezebel spirit. He's playing videos. He's doing a series, I think. But he's talking about these topics. And he's talking about how to understand the scriptures of Ahab and Jezebel and his role in hers. So bless you guys. See y'all in the next video.